I spy with my little eye an i5 CPU. The hell is that doing here? Well, greetings, people of the internet. Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse today. It has arrived. My patience has paid off. I've got the processor here. Actually, if you watched the live stream last Saturday, you know it already arrived. So, big deal, right? But what you didn't see come in was this. This came in yesterday, Monday. Yay! So this is the Gigabyte H470M DS3H. Yes, I crossed over the dark side with Ryzen, but went back to Intel. I don't know, maybe they paid me or told me I was pretty or something, and I decided to go ahead and buy Intel products. So I bought that motherboard, I bought the CPU, and then I got some Ripjaws 3200 DDR4 RAM for the whole ensemble. And so this is for what? What, Unky Joe? What are you building now? No, it's not what I'm building, it's what I'm rebuilding. And what I'm rebuilding is my Unraid server. I've had some trouble in the past with Ryzen. Now, there's not a problem with Ryzen 5 and Unraid. The product is the manufacturer of the BIOS is the problem. So I decided I had better luck with Intel. Better luck with Intel when it comes to Unraid. And there's another benefit of using an i5 processor that is not a K series or an overclockable one. This has a built-in GPU on it, okay? The other problem is I couldn't get my hands on a Ryzen 5 like 3400, 3600G. They're not available. These are. And it's 6-core, 12-thread processor. It's got 12 meg of cache. It's LGA 1200, 2.9 gigahertz. I think it'll turbo boost up to 3 point something or another. I don't pay attention to all that stuff. But it makes for a great Unraid server. So, there you go. That's what we're doing today. We're going to rebuild our Unraid server from the ground up with this CPU, that motherboard, and that RAM, and we're not going to lose any data in the process. So let's get it started right now. All right, boys and girls, so I'm going to narrate. Here I am lugging that 4U case out of that rack. I put it on top of my enterprise level servers. And this is my Unraid server, of course. It contains the Z77DS3H motherboard, that old Gigabyte motherboard that I just cannot seem to part ways with. It's a full-size ATX motherboard, but it won't work with the new processor, and I want to get that new Intel motherboard and processor in here. So I've got other plans for this, not this motherboard, but this CPU. It's going to go into another build, but I'm waiting on a replacement motherboard to come in from China. A used replacement motherboard that's compatible with that. I think it's 4th generation i7 CPU I had in there. So here we are prepping the board, making sure I get the CPU installed. Now, I prefer the LGA array on chips. I don't like the Ryzen. I'm always afraid I'm going to bend a chip. I know other people are always afraid they're going to damage that LGA socket, but be prepared because Ryzen evidently is going to that as well. And for the purposes of this build, look, I don't have any problem with stock Intel coolers. Now, if I was gaming on this system, I would have changed it out, but this Intel stock cooler, they're more than adequate to handle the load on this. And I went with this motherboard because it's a mini ATX, and it's got all the features I need. It's got 2 PCI Express slots on it, the 16X slots. It can have 4 DIMMs on it. I'm starting out with 32 gig of the G-Skill RAM here, and I just prefer G-Skill. I've had so little trouble with that RAM, no matter what it is that I build. And be careful you don't cut your fingers putting that back panel in. But yeah, I just went with G.Skill because I knew it would work right out of the bat. Now, I had to move some of the little standoffs around inside this case. That's the other benefit of using a large 4U rack style case. You have plenty of room to, you see I have plenty of room to move stuff around in there. Now, I'm not, normally I concern myself with cable management, but this machine is always going to be a machine like in progress, so I only tie up what I can get away with tying up because I move stuff around in it so often. So I kind of tuck instead of tie things up. Now this is my little USB header, and you see my USB key there for Unraid. And one thing is it's really loose on this motherboard header, but you know, it's not shorted out or anything, and it stays there, so that way I don't have to have a USB key hanging out the back of the unit. And as you can see here, I'm just more or less kind of routing cables and stuffing them so that they're out of the way. Airflow is not a problem with this case. There's a fan on the back of that drive unit, the drive cage, so I don't have to worry about the drives overheating or anything. And you know, the motherboard, the CPU doesn't get that warm. And I've got a couple of fans. I've got one on the front of the case and one in the back, so it's a push-pull. It pulls the air in the front, pushes it out the back. And then this power supply is one I actually replaced the fan in. It's one of those 2 Antecs I repaired. So I always, you know, I never put a machine back together until I boot it up and make sure everything is working. So it went right into the BIOS. It's another reason I went with a 10th gen instead of an 11th gen Intel processor. And I just went in there and made sure all my settings were correct. Now the plan was I would just boot into Unraid just to make sure Unraid would come up, and then I wanted to go back to my desktop and check and make sure that all the devices were working, and then they were. So I came back later and put in my RX 570 video card from Gigabyte and my Mellanox 10 gig networking card, or what I'm installing here. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. And then, you know, if it's successful, then that'll all be good. We'll be making progress. And there we go. There's the power connector for the CPU, and it lit up and it booted right up and booted Unraid. And so now you're going to get to watch Chunky Joe do a little dance. And I'm not going to say anything. Just watch this moron get down and boogie down all on his own. See? I'm very happy. You can always tell I'm happy because I dance and out comes the tongue and I bend over, and you know, why I wasn't escorted off the dance floor in my youth is just beyond me. But I'm a very happy camper because everything just worked. So now it's time to reassemble and put it back in the rack so I can show you the rest of the results. So going into the server room and getting this spot ready, make sure all the cables are out of the way. We're going to go put it back in the rack and put some screws in it, put it back in the rack, boot it up, and then I'll go back to my desk and I'll show you the rest of the setup. Alright, so here Unraid is in action. Now, what I've had to do is go out and flip my network card. I have a 10 gig and a 1 gig network card in here, so I had to flip ETH1 and ETH0 around. And I'm copying my applications folder over from my Synology DS1621 Plus with a 10 gig NIC over to Unraid, because Unraid is my archival server, and I'm using rsync to do that, but I just wanted you to see the actual file transfer in process. So even though I have a 10 gig NIC, keep in mind those hard drives can only write at so many megabytes per second on Unraid. I did see speeds as high as 2.1 gigabit per second. And I would imagine if we were to do larger files, like video files, I would get those speeds again. But yeah, it is syncing the folders from Rivendell onto my Unraid server, and that's what I wanted it to do. That's one of the whole reasons behind spending all this money on Unraid and upgrading it. As you can see also as well, I am now on the Gigabyte H470M DS3H motherboard, and I'm running an Intel Core i5-10400 CPU at 2.9 gigahertz, and I also have 32 gig of DDR4 RAM. So, yeah, we are moving forward with Unraid, and but I just wanted you to see the file transfer in process so that you can see the kind of speeds I'm getting. Again, we're gonna be running rsync on here. About once a week, we'll run the rsync command, and I'll show you how I set those up to get all the data off of Rivendell and archive it onto Unraid Beast. But it's running now. I'm happy. I got a big old smile on my face here on this end. I know you can't see it, but all right. So it's been actually about a week since I updated and upgraded the motherboard in here. So I did a rsync, and basically I have, this is cold storage here. I've pretty much almost filled up my hard drives, but I started out with rsync and went out and taught myself some commands. So, but you'll notice down here in my shares that I have, some of them are mounted, some are unmounted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the media share, and what that's going to do is mount the share on my Synology 1621 Plus, and so now I have that as a UNC path here. So now what I can do is go out and use rsync to actually get that folder and all those subfolders underneath it all synchronized up with one command. So the initial synchronization took quite some time. Let me get you the commands up here. Hold on just a second, so I know what I'm talking about. Oh, let's see. Okay, so rsync -A means the archive mode behaves like the recursive mode but keeps all file permissions. The V is for verbose output, displays the details of the transfer, and H shows the numbers in the output in a human readable form. So I'm telling it to synchronize everything on the mount remotes, the IP address of my Synology 1621, including, and if you don't put this slash in there, it's going to create a folder under the share called 192.168.5.3 _ media. So make sure you put the slash there so that it puts it in the root of your share, which is mount, user, and media. So here's the command itself. rsync -avh, mount remotes, yada yada, mount user media. So if I hit the enter key here, it's going to go out and look at all the files on my Synology NAS, see what's changed, and then it's going to synchronize them, including my recycle bin. It's going to synchronize them up, and in all fairness, I should have told it to exclude the recycle bin, but just for shits and giggles, we want to make sure we're doing this. So you can see files that I've deleted, moved around, some photos, etc. So here are the final results of the rsync, and that is a week between rsyncs, and I have added some videos and moved some videos around and changed some videos. So there were it sent 93 gigabytes, I guess, of data, received 3.56 kilobytes, so the average speed was 140.41 megabytes per second. Megabytes, not megabits. Total size was 6.27 terabytes. So there's my rsync server set up and working. Now the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to mount Unky Joe's Playhouse. Okay, and then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to do my next command to make sure all that is synced. So we'll copy it and I'll just paste it over here and hit enter. And let's see what happens, how long it takes. Not long at all. So as you can see, I just got this. I could set this up on a cron job if I wanted to. I don't know that I'm going to get that involved. I like being hands-on with my backups. That way I know they're actually being done. But rsync is a great way to keep your stuff archived in like cold storage like I'm doing here. And that's basically what I'm using the storage on Unraid for. If I want to run a virtual machine or a Docker, I actually run them off the internal SSD cache drive. So, but there's my new motherboard installed, new CPU. We got rsync up and running. We have the 10 gig NIC working. Now, one of my favorite things in the world to do is to build a PC. Is to put my hands on a physical PC and get it built. So I don't know what it is. I always feel like I'm in a hurry. Maybe it's because I drink too much coffee or something. But I really wanted to make sure I slowed down and I savored this build. And I did on this one. So the build video is a little, I try to speed it up because, some people get bored by that kind of thing. But it's really my favorite part of the whole thing. It's kind of like when it's built, then it's like it's anticlimactic and it's over. But I really enjoyed this, and when you get your hands inside of a case, it's got a lot of room like this 4U server case that I did. It just makes building these things a pleasure. So yeah, I got it put together, got it assembled, booted it right up. Now there is a warning with this motherboard using the 11th generation Intel that you have to use a previous generation chip, just like with Ryzen sometimes. It flashed the BIOS for a new version of the 11 series, but I decided to go with the 10 series of chips. I may get an 11 series build in here for another project I'm working on, but for this build, a 10 gen chip is a big step up from the i7-3470 I think I was running. So I went from 3rd gen to 10th gen. And like I say, the main benefit of using Intel over Ryzen is the built-in graphics on the chip. So then I popped my RX 570 or 580, or might have been a 560 video card in there. So I can dedicate that to virtual machines or to some other processing I might need. And then I put my 10 gig, my handy dandy trusty 10 gig Mellanox card in there, ConnectX-2 card for SFP Plus. Put that in there, put the RAM in, tested everything. It booted right up. I went to the BIOS and had to do some tweaks in there, and I turned on XMP and put in my USB flash in a little adapter that plugs into the motherboard. It booted right up. No muss, no fuss, no nothing. And so then I took a series of steps, and the first step was to bring the drive array back online, and it recognized everything, including my cache drive, even though it was a different serial ATA controller and more ports on it. And keep in mind, I went from serial ATA 2 to 3 because that old Gigabyte motherboard did not have serial ATA. It had 2 serial ATA 3 ports on it, and the rest were SATA 2. This also has an NVMe slot built onto it, but I left my cache drive as an internal SSD for now. So booted all that up, it came up just fine, and then I added the video card back and booted that up and made sure I went in and could see all the devices, that they were all separated like they were on the other Intel or the Gigabyte board I used with an Intel chip. I put the Mellanox back in, checked it was working, and then put it back in the rack. And as you can see, or you will see, I'm doing an rsync transfer between my Synology NAS and my Unraid, and it's going gangbusters. Now I'm getting upwards of 2.2 gigabit per second transfer rates on there. And I don't have jumbo packets or frames or enabled or anything. I'm just doing a raw rsync copy from my Synology to my Unraid to get some data over there and test it. So now all told, I spent around $460 for the CPU, the motherboard, and the RAM, not including my labor. But for me, I think it was money well spent. Unraid is going to be a permanent part of my equipment in there. It's here to stay. I really love the flexibility of Unraid. And no, they're not paying me to say this. I actually like their product. Now they also have a new feature in 6.9, which is drive pooling, which you know I'm a big fan of. I don't understand how they do it on Unraid yet, but that's part and parcel of the reason I wanted to rebuild this Unraid server and get a little more power, because I'm going to be playing around with virtualization on it, running some Docker containers, and it's, you know, it's a really flexible machine, and I need archival storage. So what better than Unraid? Unraid's the way they handle array is very flexible, and leaves me with a lot of growth. I could pop another card in there and add more drives to my little heart's content if I needed to. So yeah, money well spent, no regrets. Unraid, in my opinion, is worth every penny. I have a full-blown version with I think it's unlimited drives on it now. Unraid did give that to me free at no charge as a thank you for doing the videos, so there is kind of a paid endorsement here, but they didn't ask me to say anything nice about them. There's no need. They're great people that run it. They've always been responsive when I've had trouble with a loss. I've lost my key a couple of times, so they've always been there to help me, and so they've got my loyalty. And the folks at Drive Vendor, they're the same way. If you know, I toot Drive Vendor's horn all the time. But they're a really good company. They take care of their customers, and it's greatly appreciated. So there you go, folks. We hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, please give us a thumbs up down below if you liked the video. Leave your comments down in the comments section. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Put a ring on it, as they say. Donate if you're so inclined. PayPal, Patreon, YouTube join function. And we're going to play around with a couple other payment processors. I'm looking at a program or a service called SubscribeStar. So if any of you have heard of SubscribeStar or know anything about it, let me know. Do a little research into it, but it's another way you can help donate to keep the channel going. Come back and see us again real soon, and don't forget, we'll see you on the other side.